Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu. Welcome to the first edition of It Takes Two with my co-host, Sister Ruby.
Assalamu alaikum.
And this week we have with us Sheikh Ahmed Hanif. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to both of you.
Alhamdulillah. Yes, so this is the program where we look into the issues that come up in marriages, that come up in issues related to romance, and we'll be exploring it from a psychological and an Islamic philosophical point of view. And people have sent in their letters, and we appreciate and look at them with deep sensitivity, and appreciate if you continue to send your letters in with your queries. This week, we would like to kick off the episode with a scenario about attraction between spouses. And if I may just read this letter, we'll see what you both make of it, but particularly yourself, Sheikh. So it says, "Dear Take Two, my husband smells. When he hugs our children, I can smell his body odor on them. We've been married for 6 years and we have 2 very young children. I bought him aftershave and perfumes to encourage him to take more care of his hygiene, but I don't know what else to do. I don't want to hurt his feelings, and if I'm honest, I don't think I love him anymore." Anonymous.
It seems to me that she is hinting to him rather than speaking directly to him about this. Okay? So, here you have a situation where there's something about your spouse that disturbs you, but you're not expressing it. You're not saying anything. You're too worried about hurting their feelings, and now you've reached a point where you don't love them anymore. Okay? And my feeling about this is that she doesn't love him anymore because she cannot stand his body odor. Okay? Mm-hmm. So I think it's a good lesson for us, right? You know, that we have to be a little more direct. We don't have to be blunt necessarily, but we have to be more direct. You know, just buying him deodorant and so forth might not encourage him to use it. Because look, even though Muslims in the past, gave emphasis on perfume and so forth, you heard in history, they said the Muslims, they can smell the Frankish armies in the Crusades, which was the European armies, from a mile away because of their body odor. Okay? Muslims didn't have that problem. Today the tables are turned. You have whole Muslim societies, and I've been in them, where perfume, is not as important, okay? Or using cologne or arm deodorant, is unheard of almost. Only the upper classes do it. You see? And so you find people who do not have this particular habit, of personal grooming, especially on the part of men. Okay? Again, what's here is a very good case in point where women are very, very important, very, very concerned about their own personal grooming, but the men don't. You know what I mean? Some men look like gorillas, you know what I mean, in terms of how they deal with body hair and so forth and so on, and I think here's a case in point where this woman needs to be more direct in terms of training her husband to be a human being.
But I'm thinking, is this, sister, is this a deal breaker? I mean, hygiene, yes, it's important, but it sounds like she doesn't love her husband because he smells. She's fallen out of love with him.
Well, women are like men. There's 3 things we look at. We look at physical, emotional, and sensory as well, which includes your smell. There's a scientific fact that with smell, there's pheromones as well. If you go into certain environments, they produce more pheromones. And you think about it, you're in a crowded train, and your head automatically turns to the person who's wearing perfume that attracts your smell, or an aftershave. It's a natural phenomenon. And if one of those things in a woman's eyes is missing, you've got problems. What I would say to sisters...
Irreconcilable problems or?
Well, was going to say is I think women have a great capacity to be deal breakers, diplomats, and manipulate situations that can often benefit their own scenarios. So what I would advise the sister is that she can have a lot of control in this situation in terms of, we don't know from the letter, does the brother work in a certain type of environment? He might be a mortician. He's using chemicals that are very strong, that absorb in his skin and on his clothes. Might be a surgeon, a dentist. When he comes home, those chemicals are absorbed in his skin. She can go on the internet. There's deodorants that you can buy online that are prescribed by pharmacists, etc. She could do little subtle things in the bathroom. Change the soap. Use one that would suit him in the shower. You don't have to be so confrontive about it. Maybe she's tried subtly and then he's just not, he's coming in with scrubs, for example. And instead of going straight to the shower, he wants to sit down and have a drink and turn on the TV. So what I'm saying to the sister is, you know, do your homework. Maybe she has already, but you could really manipulate the situation to benefit everybody. As we said, he might have a hormonal issue. He might come from a culture, for example, where they use a lot of spices that is absorbed in, you know,
Indeed.
in their skin. So is it a deal breaker? It is if he's got some medical issue and the body is smelling a certain way, then she has that right. But there's avenues that
I have two
she
children.
can approach.
I thought I'd throw that in there. I mean,
They have two. I think what she's saying, it's sometimes with sisters we get frustrated very quickly, so we use language that often sounds like it's a deal breaker, it's a be all and end all. But maybe when she hugs her children, she smells her husband, she doesn't want to smell that. So my suggestion would be, go online, there's remedies there. Surely the marriage is, I would hope, means more to you than somebody's smell, but it might be a problem, and if it is, she needs to seek medical attention. Go online, Google subtle changes, change the diet, cook different things, use different detergents, different deodorants. You don't even have to tell him. Put them in the bathroom.
This is the same manipulate, but I want to ask you something, Shay. I mean, marriage is half of the religion. Is this with all due respect, is this too superficial a reason to want to end the marriage? I'm not suggesting the sister's saying that she wants to end the marriage, but I don't
think it's superficial. Of course, it is not a problem as deep and profound as other problems, right? But there are things that actually turn people off. Bad breath, for example. You know, stuck with a husband who's got bad breath, okay? It turns you off seriously, you know. Body odor is something that also turns people off. Absolutely.
But is it something that can be addressed as opposed to saying, is it something that would be best addressed, or something that's worthy of saying, okay, I want to exit strategy. This person doesn't.
No, it has to be addressed, because it's superficial in that aspect, in the sense that they are problems that can be quite easily solved. Okay, they can be solved by, for example, physical interventions or even medical interventions. All right, somebody has for example, bad breath. You know, you go to a doctor, you can get recommendations as to what to do.
There's treatments.
In your stomach, how you eat and how you eliminate and so forth. You know what I mean? Bad breath. There's so many. Bad body odor. There's so many things on the market above counter, as the sister was saying, even like from a doctor. You know what I mean? So there are things that can be quite easily solved. The problem is that things like bad breath and body odor and so forth. Okay, people tend to be very, very sensitive about how you tell that to somebody. You see?
Yes.
And this is the problem. You don't say it. What she's doing, she's hinting to this person, okay, which is not enough. All right? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You know, you could I think that one of the best ways is like the sandwich way, the sandwich method of criticism, okay? Two positives interspersed by the criticism itself. You know, you're a great person on all levels. I love you for this, okay? You know, if you deal with that body odor, right, you'll be the best. You'll be the most ideal. You have two great suggestions, okay, with the intermediate criticism, where you encourage him, and if you solve this, okay, the reward or the consequence is going to be much higher.
But
much
a lot
better.
of the time when you're dealing with men, again we generalize, is that when you make a suggestion, they hear it and then back to the same routine the next day. So what I'm feeling is that she's feeling frustrated. I'm thinking she may have used, several methods that haven't worked and she's sick of it. Maybe for the man, he doesn't see there's a problem.
She sounds like she's hinting. Sounds like she's only hinting. She's
Let's stick with the text. Let's stick with the text of what we have, right? I mean, what she says is, I bought him stuff. She didn't say I've spoken to him about this.
She's alluding to it, but not being.
Well, maybe she feels a bit intimidated by the brother and what his reaction will be to say, you have a smell. Maybe she's saying, I've tried to make changes. You're not taking the bait. I've had enough. Because this is.
But she needs to talk to him about that. My impression is she hasn't spoken to him about this.
Because at some point you're going to have to speak about it, even if it's to say, I want to divorce you. Well, why? Because you smell. So, I mean...
Would brothers do that, though? Would they be so frank and to just come and say, excuse me?
Everybody has this problem, okay? About, telling somebody, okay, that they should use deodorant. Okay?
It is a touchy subject.
It's a touchy subject, okay? Somebody comes up to you and talks in your face and you recoil in horror.
Yeah,
instinctively. Because of their bad breath.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't know how to tell them because it's so sensitive. Mm-hmm. And this becomes really problematic in a relationship. Because, I don't have to live with this person who has a bad breath, for example, or a body odor. You know what I mean? I just don't want to tell them. But if you're living with this person, it becomes difficult. It's a good topic.
So isn't that a bigger duty? So you live with a person, isn't that a bigger duty?
Yes, I think you need to tell them.
Yes.
They need to be told, okay, in an upfront, direct, but very respectable way, in an encouraging way. Look, honey, you got body odor, okay? You know something? I can't stand it, okay? So look, let's try these deodorants, please.
That's really going to work in a household. They'll be in separate rooms for the rest for 5
months. I want to interject something to add to this scenario. I mean, when I read the scenario, straight away as a psychotherapist, the lights went on. I don't think I love him anymore. I'm only wondering, because that's what we do as psychotherapy, we wonder and we ponder. Is there something deeper going on? Because it's not, I'm madly in love with my husband, but it's a big problem. He really, has a real body odor issue, as opposed to, I don't think I love him. And
maybe it's, as you said, other underlying issues. Maybe in the marriage she's discussed things or introduced things and he hasn't taken attention of it. So now she's gotten to a state of frustration. Maybe, the smell is a cherry on the cake. She can't take it.
I don't think we need to go there. I don't think we need to go there. I don't think you need to wonder anything, right? Because
wondering is good. I like wondering.
What I'm saying is, if we wonder and speculate, there's a million things you can speculate and wonder about. Okay, let's take it face value, because I think there's much to learn about face value. There's a person who has a spouse, okay, that smells horrible. Okay, they hate the smell. They don't. What we're getting from the text, okay, is they have not directly approach that person with this, but with hints, all right, and it's not working.
But Shay, love is a deep thing, and I can't believe.
And so smells.
And love is personal hygiene is important, but I'm not being judgmental, genuinely not being judgmental. But I'm thinking, when somebody loves somebody, and they have a problem, it's they love them and there's this problem. But when you don't love somebody, then the problem is more of an issue.
You can hate somebody because they smell bad. You could dislike somebody because they smell bad. Yes, you can.
And everybody,
so?
I think...
Yes, the person can have the greatest personality and everything, right? But they smell bad.
And also, I think everybody has their triggers. Maybe for this sister, the smell reminds her of something. So, negative. So she wants to eliminate that memory or whatever. But I'm sensing that she feels frustrated with the issue, and maybe she hasn't thought of other alternatives, which we have approach, medical reasons. I know from personal experience, I had a friend who had a medical condition, and she did warn me that, you know, when she entered my house, she would smell not very nice. And like, oh, okay. And really, when she did enter, it was something else. It literally saturated the walls for days. And that was a friend that I'd had to see once in how many months. And I'm smiling because it's a bit humorous, but it was distressing. So imagine every day with that person. But there are avenues. I wouldn't call things quit just based on that. Try all avenues. Again, with marriage, we must try everything we can for the sake of the children.
Indeed.
And herself. And, you know, I would like to stress that, you know, being single isn't all that it's cracked up to be in divorce. If it's something you can work on and it's a smell, thank God it's a smell. It's not something huge like domestic violence, thank God, or something.
But I think we have to remember the olfactory component, okay, of attraction. Right, is extremely important, and we should not, diminish that importance. Okay, it might be superficial. Okay, it might be something that is simple to deal with. Okay, but it's profoundly important. This is why we have, for example, a massive perfume industry, for example.
Yeah.
You know, and if a person is unpleasant from the point of view of smell, okay, you know, it could overwhelm everything about that person.
So we've looked at it from the point of view, explored it from the sister who has been, you know, courageous enough to make this a request in terms of a problem. What about from the point of a husband, who is there an Islamic duty to be clean? What's going on? Is it to do with wajib or preferred, or, you know, what's the context?
Many hadith where the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has emphasized upon spouses looking pleasing and being pleasing for each other. You're doing it for your spouse. Okay, you're doing it for your spouse to be pleasing to them. It mightn't be your thing. You know what I mean? You mightn't like to wear perfume. You mightn't prefer wearing perfume. And as long as you're not allergic to perfume or something, your spouse wants perfume, you put it on. Because it's what love is, really, right? Love is making the other person everything. You know what I mean? What that person likes, you like. You know? What is love if you say, they say, I like this of you, and you say, I don't care, this is not me. Okay? It's not really love. Okay? What that person likes for you and from you, you do it, you emphasize it because you feed off of that love. You see? And, I think this is why our society really needs a lot of marital counseling and guidance and so forth in terms of dealing with each other. Because I think a healthy, self-confident male or female, right, should be able to appreciate it when their spouse, who they are intimate with, who they know, all of their faults or whatever.
Yeah.
When a spouse tells you, look, honey, you got to do something about that breath of yours, for example. And it's coming from a good place. Okay? They're saying something that this is about you that bothers them, and they're suggesting to you how to deal with it. All right? Or look, honey, you have a body odor problem. You see?
That sounds easier said than done. I mean, I'm just taking myself out of the situation. If someone said that to me, I would probably say, well, you have some nerve, quite frankly.
Isn't it more about how it's said?
You know what?
People who are close say all sorts of stuff to each other.
I think, honestly, I would prefer my friend to tell me that than my spouse.
So your spouse has to tell your friend then?
Well, I don't think that's a bad idea. If this sister has, he has male relatives, then maybe it sounds better if it comes from, a friend, a male thing.
That's a strategy.
It's a possible strategy.
Yeah, that's a strategy. But they have to find a strategy where that person knows directly.
So don't hint to her father-in-law.
Yeah,
if she's going to tell her father-in-law, tell him.
About it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Don't mention me, for example.
Because she could be saying...
You see what I'm saying, right? But you find a strategy for this person to know directly the importance of taking action on this.
because as I said, sometimes it's better coming from outside. You don't get the red flags. Like, what do you mean? Here, I've been working 12 hours a day. I come in and you're talking about smell, and you're looking like, you've been in a war. What's going on? And then other things come up. So get someone, preferably the same gender, who could be a friend and be like, bring up a situation, or the third person, I think.
Do you think the sister has a duty to tell her husband, or to make it known to him, in a sense, even if it's through a chain?
I do, because if you truly care about somebody, you will tell them good and bad things, but it's the way you do it, and that's with every relationship. It's the way you do it, it's who says it, and what are the ramifications. I think, if you care about someone, I would feel offended if my spouse said that to me. I'd rather my friend or a sister or someone to be like, rather than to know that he's at home. And how long have you been thinking this, by the way, and you didn't tell me? Who else knows? That would be a problem for me.
I think I agreed completely with what you're saying, but I think to add a little modification, you said maybe his own gender, from, like, for example, intimating his family, like an uncle or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Tell him. I would venture to suggest that either gender would be important in telling him, and sometimes even from the female gender, like an aunt, for example, telling him, about how he smells and how important to a woman it would be, for example.
Could be powerful.
Okay.
That could
It
be
could be
powerful.
quite powerful.
Yeah.
It could be quite powerful.
And again, we don't want to demasculate the poor brother. You go to his best friend and he'll be like, why is my wife talking to my best friend about how I smell?
Well, that's why I mentioned, when you mention to let's say a best friend or to a family member of his or whatever, you tell them, I didn't say that. Don't mention me in this. You know what I'm saying? Make it, it's indirect from you, but it's direct from them.
Because the other method could work out toxic.
And what I want to say to the brothers is, please, come on. Just as brothers give sisters a hard time, and when they get married, they let themselves go, can brothers be mindful too? I mean, we would like to marry the Prince Charming that we, were with 10 years ago, or whoever, still be with them. Where are they gone? Why have they let standards drop?
Is this an issue from your interactions in the community? Is this something
Yes,
common,
it is.
or similar type things that are common in terms of brothers letting themselves go?
I think these are universal issues that happen between male and females. But as I said, I feel that there's a lot of pressure on women to be perfect at all times. So brothers want the 20-year-old that they married 10 years ago. Women also want that 20-year-old they married 10 years ago. We don't want... It's fine that you've gained a few pounds, but, if you're looking like a Buddha and you're expecting me to look like Barbie, it's not fair. And
Isn't there pressure on men now, though?
realistic.
I don't know about in Muslim societies, but Muslims living in the West will be influenced by the West. And then the West is changing from men starting to use moisturizers and expected to look like
I think for a lot of men, once the
Hollywood's
ring's on the
A-list
finger,
actors.
once the ring is on the finger and he's bringing in the halal turkey bacon, his job is done. And it's like, okay, well, entertain me. It's like, well, you entertain me. So unless he was that type of person who took care of his appearance and is around like-minded people, for example, if your spouse is sporty, he's quite likely to have friends who are sporty, so he'll be in shape. But if you've got a spouse who doesn't want to do sports, wants to eat biryani with his friends every week, he's going to look a bit different than he did before. So
True.
we have the same issues, but some things are more important to us than others.
Sheikh, is there a flip side to this then? Let's look at this side from the perspective of some men in some cultures. It may be seen as almost effeminate to be, it may be a sign of masculinity to say, as a bit of
To smell bad.
rough and ready. I'm not saying minging, but like this sort of rough and ready thing, and this kind of new, what do they call it? This metrosexual. It's a bit metrosexually to be, always in the mirror and smelling even more sweeter than your wife and stuff like that. So some men may have a bit of an issue with that. How would you talk to that?
I think we have to go back to the teaching of the Holy Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wa alihi, okay, who emphasized, cleanliness, who emphasized the use of perfume, who emphasized the fact that in appearance and in our akhlaq, we should be presentable, to our spouses. You know, these are things that are, rooted in Islamic etiquette and Islamic akhlaq. You know, we find that in today's society, they create this mythology of the non-gay man being a ruffian, being a person who doesn't have sophisticated culture, somebody who doesn't dress impeccably, somebody who does not take care of their bodies, somebody who does not take care of themselves. And then when they find a heterosexual man who does not fit that particular stereotype, they create a special, ambiguous identity for them. They call it a metrosexual. Why the word sexual? Why does that come into play? You know, when we're speaking about only appearance and how you take care of yourself. What's so sexual about that? It is merely a way to undermine heterosexual confidence in themselves.
Interesting.
You see?
Interesting.
So when a man starts to think of himself as putting himself together properly and appealingly, you know, and to groom himself and so on, you know, what they are actually hinting is that this is gay behavior and this is unusual for heterosexuals. So as a heterosexual man, you should be a bum.
Interesting point. This is really fascinating, and we hopefully we can carry this on the other side of the break. Hope to see you on the other side of the break. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu. Welcome back to the part 2 of It Takes Two. Sheikh, just before the break, I almost cut you in mid-flow, and I know Sister wants to come in straight after, but you were in mid-flow about this antagonistic perception of men who care themselves. Yeah,
so basically, to maintain the stereotype, right, an artificial stereotype of heterosexual men, okay, as being unsophisticated, crude, you know, not fashion conscious and things of that nature, okay, they create a separate category, okay, and they put the word sexual in there, okay. Why? You know, to continuously undermine, I think, the male heterosexual identity, okay, because you have this myth in society right now, okay, that gays are the most talented, gays are the best dressed, okay. And so
it's a very Hollywood idea, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a manufactured idea. Okay, so if you find a heterosexual person who is talented, who is, I don't use the word fashion conscious, but if you know what I mean, aesthetically conscious about their dress, you know, who looks after their bodies, who looks after their appearance.
Hey, he might be in the closet.
Exactly, right? So they put that kind of ambiguous category for him, which is called metrosexual. And so now heterosexual men would find it disturbing for themselves if they, for example, prefer to put on cologne, or if they prefer to go to the gym to work out, or if they, are, tasteful in their choice of clothing and that type of stuff. I haven't
come across that. I think
you have or haven't?
I haven't. If you go to the supermarkets and you look at the moisturizer, there's a whole row for men. Things to put under their eyes so they don't get bags. You know, this is stuff that they would market towards men, and you see a lot of sportsmen now who are heterosexual who promote those products.
But they're quite. Would you say that their image is quite metrosexual?
I wouldn't call it metrosexual. I think I don't like that term. I don't even know what it means. Who came up with that? It's a ridiculous term. But they take pleasure out of taking care of themselves. Their skin's dry. They need to moisturize.
Everybody needs to moisturize, but again, that's a question. Do you think that those products that are being introduced for this new generation of men, let's say, like older men, for example, may sound a bit Nancy boyish? Or you know.
Well, I think, trying to look good, there's no shame in it, whatever age you are. Maybe that's not in your generation, like older guys, you would see them buying Old Spice instead of some cologne or whatever. But I think with each generation we come up with different things. I remember in the 60s it was about aftershave, when you see the old clips, and then you had shampoos for men. Before it was shampoo or shampoo just for women. Now you have shampoos for men. The media is very savvy. There's a market. If they can sell something to men, why not? But does it have anything to do with masculinity? I think certain industries have made it look that way, say the music industry and so on and so forth. But going back to the sister's question, I suddenly thought, poor sister, she must feel quite overwhelmed with this, because again, and I'm sure this happens with men, when you step outside with your partner, you want to make a statement. This is my man, this is our family, look at our 2 kids. And then he's crushing that image that you have, and you're probably thinking, well, who else is smelling that smell?
Exactly.
And is it a reflection of me and my duties as a mother, a wife, or whoever? And she's probably feeling some resentment that you're not doing anything about it. But are people talking about our children at school that, your dad smells like this?
The guy probably doesn't even know.
There, yeah.
Okay? Most likely, right? Maybe 99% of the possibility that person doesn't know. Because who really likes to smell bad? Nobody.
Well, kids talk. Children, they say things, know.
He may be missing a beat. So it may be fair to say that ultimately that his wife needs to find a way to get it to him.
Agreed.
Whichever message it is. Communicate with the husband, and maybe they can salvage the situation and improve the situation. Inshallah, that they'll be able to overcome this challenge.
Yes,
Marriages are full of challenges. If it's okay with yourselves, we'll go on to the other letter.
Let's do it.
Dear Take Two, it takes two. I've been married for 15 years and my wife doesn't wear makeup. She used to when we were younger, but since our children have grown up, she doesn't seem to bother making an effort. She barely initiates intimacy. Not only is this having a negative effect on me, but it's also taking a toll on our marriage. I love my wife, but I feel as though the situation is pushing me into finding affection elsewhere. Considering that I'm allowed to do so. I did want to comment on that. I could
You saw
hear
me
you
wriggling
huff,
from
I could hear
here
you puff,
to over here.
I could hear you just...
Subhanallah.
But we'll start with a shake, actually.
No, I think start with the sister.
You want to start with the sister?
Yeah.
I wanted to
Yeah,
build
no.
it.
Because
build it up.
I think you might be on the
Respectfully,
same.
please
You might be
start.
on the same page.
Oh, I was trying to build up the fire, but you.
Oh dear.
preempted.
Okay. Be objective.
Talk to us, Sister Ruby. Talk to us.
The brother's first comment was his wife doesn't wear makeup. He's been married for how many years?
15 years.
15 years. And he feels what?
He feels. He says, and I quote.
Yes,
And this is. I mean, in all seriousness, this is still a challenging situation for the brother. We have to, try to be objective
No,
about it, right?
definitely.
But since our children have grown up, she doesn't, make an effort, and she barely initiates any intimacy. Yeah,
Okay, can I?
it's having a negative effect and a toll on our marriage, as far as he's concerned. That's his subjective, but
He has a
his,
right
his
to
right to
his
his
views.
feelings.
Most definitely, and we will never belittle them. Here is my issue again. Pressures on women. He's been married to the sister for 12 years.
15.
15. Has she had children? What's happened in her life during this journey? Maybe the focus was on if she's had children to make sure Abdul Bob does his homework, make sure the house is clean, make sure that you're excelling, her husband's excelling in his career. Maybe there's only 24 hours in a day that she has to do her amal, be a mother, be a wife, be a friend, be a daughter, etc. And maybe nature happened. She's got a bit older. Maybe before it was, she put makeup on to feel confident, or she did it because it made her feel good and be pretty for her husband. But maybe her priority now is to make sure she gets up early to get the kids out the door. So she's not thinking about the eyeliner or the lipstick, and maybe it's almost
Should
like
she?
if
Does she need to? Would it behoove her? Is it her best advice to
As
If
always,
it's brought to
I mean, with
attention.
everything, we should at all times try and be our best, most presentable, most this, most that. But the pressures of life are somewhat different. I'm not saying she shouldn't make an effort, but as a woman who's been in a marriage for 15 years, in her situation, if a husband told me that, I would be hurt. Quite frankly, if you're fixated on makeup when I've been working, raising your children, raising our children, etc., and your mind is transgressing onto other things because I'm not wearing makeup, what does that say about our relationship?
The brother has mentioned that she doesn't initiate intimacy and things of this nature.
But maybe she's too tired. There's 24 hours in a day. We don't, maybe...
I've got to ask a question then, because you mentioned a whole load of legitimate things,
Yes.
of responsibilities with the children, of responsibilities with the home. I'm just saying, who are you married to, ultimately?
I understand that. And it's a very good point, but you're married to a lot of things. You're married to your children, you're married to your husband, you're married to your career, you're married to your family, you're married to your community, you're married to the shopping, you're married to the parents' evening, you're married... I could go on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying, please don't get me wrong, that I'm not telling sisters that they shouldn't be presentable. One, for a start, do it for yourself. Do it for yourself, for your self-esteem, for your own confidence, because when you look nice, you start feeling nice, and that transports onto other areas in your life. Do it for your husband. If there's anyone you should be looking pretty for, it's for your husband, definitely. But are these realistic issues that all women can deal with? When women hear something like that, again, it's a pressure. And then your next fear is, oh my God, is my husband going to go somewhere else because I haven't put eyeliner on? And I think it's not really fair. There's a lot of pressure out there for women. And again, I'm not saying don't try your best, but and she doesn't initiate intimacy. She might be going through the menopause. She might be tired. There's so many variables. I just think I think sometimes men need a little bit of education. I'm sorry,
Right,
but
men need education. Stick a pin. We're going to bring the shake in. Is this gentleman, our brother in Islam, is he being unfair, or is he speaking his mind and speaking from his heart and his emotions, his feelings? He's expressing his feelings.
He's expressing his feelings. I don't think he's being unfair, right? I don't think he's being unfair. He might be unfair if he doesn't take into consideration or refuses to take into consideration the factors that might lead her to this. Look, 15 years of marriage, okay? Mm-hmm. Let's say, for example, the average age of getting married, let's say, is about between 20 and 24, mm-hmm. as early as you can think.
Yeah.
Right? So they're in their 30s or 40s, right?
Early 40s. Just okay? we're speculating here, but it's an average, yeah.
You find a lot of women, for example, feel unattractive after they have had their kids. Okay? They might feel like, the residual effects of having a kid, for example, a bit of a tummy and all that type of stuff, they don't feel very attractive. You might find women, for example, feeling less attractive when the older they get, of course, right? And this is much more significant among women than men. You find that women, for example, sometimes they might have so much work, as you have mentioned, so much responsibilities, okay, that the last thing that is important on the list is really self-maintenance, okay, making yourself attractive for your husband.
Or intimacy. Right?
Or even intimacy, okay? The thing is this, from a male point of view, okay, it's not, so it's being unfair in a sense, right? But it's just how men are.
Keep it real, Shane. Keep it real.
From a male point of view, the attractiveness of a wife on a relative level, you have a 50-year-old wife, you don't expect a 50-year-old wife to look like a 22-year-old woman.
Yeah.
Okay? But as a 50-year-old, you expect her to look really good as a 50-year-old.
Yes.
As a 50-year-old.
Real talk. Yes,
okay? Yes. The attractiveness of a wife. Okay? The frequency and level of satisfaction of intimate relationships are of primary importance to men. Okay? They might not be the most important things compared to, for example, raising the kids, paying the mortgage, and things of that nature. all right? They might comprise only like maybe 5% of the relationship. But if it is not fulfilled, it colors 95% of the relationship. It's like one bad apple in a whole bunch, spoiling everything. Okay? And I think this is what she needs to know. What they need to do, again, in all of these situations here, it's about communication. Okay? You want me to look really good for you, all right? Then come home a little earlier and help me with this and this and this. You know what I mean?
Negotiate.
Let's put aside, for example, private time, one weekend every month or whatever, you know, where we go off by ourselves or where, you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
You know, let's make a date or something. They really need to talk about this and
inject some romance into the relationship.
Yeah, you know what I mean? She needs to know what he wants. She needs to know that the danger, the mortal danger.
I need to ask you about that
relationship.
I need to ask you about that shit.
You know, if he's not satisfied intimately.
The brother mentions that I love my wife, but I feel as though the situation is pushing me into finding affection elsewhere, considering that I'm allowed to do so. Is that the mortal danger that you're alluding to? And does he need to disclose? Would it behoove him to disclose that type of
I don't think he needs to talk about that. That's more like a threat. If he mentions that to his wife.
That's not cool.
It's not cool to say that, right? But what he needs to know is that he knows why he might be driven towards that. So what he needs to do is to work upon fulfilling those conditions and would not lead him to think like that.
And I would go furthermore as as I said to the ladies, if there's something that you want and you can manipulate the situation, manipulation doesn't mean a negative term all the time. I like manipulation, the word manipulation. But
it's just that most of us don't like to be manipulated.
Well, we do it all the time in life. In the shop, you know, you manipulate the situation to get a cheaper price, whatever you can do. But why doesn't he instigate? I mean, if this is so important to him, the intimacy, why don't we have brothers, you know, dialing nannies? This week I want to take my wife for a makeover and we'll take a family picture together.
Beautiful. With
her looking amazing. And, you know, after that, 4 weeks' time, we'll go, you know, I'll pay for a nanny and we'll go away. Why is it that he's suddenly thinking about, oh, I have other options? No, your first option is with your immediate family and your responsibilities. Let's not look for the quick fix here. I don't know what he was alluding to, but that's going to bring different things into the relationship.
Is he alluding to another wife?
Pardon?
Is he?
I don't know what he's hinting, but maybe he is. But is that really going to fix the situation he's discussing right now? And is that really going to boost a female's confidence? Oh, you know, I've raised your kids. Now you've gone for a version 2.5. It's not what we're looking for. I'm just saying.
It would be better for him to create that or work with his wife to create that 2.5. To what's the word?
Well, put
like
some
a
spark
rebirth
in it. You want
yeah.
something. Look, marriages, like anything else, take work. I call marriages like business agreements. You have meetings, you have discussions, you have to make concessions,
terms and conditions.
Exactly. Well, you need to have an environment where it's beneficial for the two people to gain something from it. He wants intimacy. Tell you what, why don't you work extra hours? Give me £100. Say spend it on yourself. I'll go and buy whatever you want me to buy because you've initiated something. And women want to be pleasing to their spouses. It's hurtful when, you know, your partner comes and says, you're all these things, but in this side you're lacking. Well, instead of saying that, help me. You know, you want me to look more attractive? Let's go on a shopping spree. You may not like eyeliner, but you think she'll look good in it. If you say, oh, what about this? I'm more likely to say, okay, I'll give it a go. But again, I feel like it's all this work is put on women and that a lot of guys have this get out of jail route.
Where's that coming from, all the pressure on women? I'm interested.
No, I don't think so. I think right now our discussion is putting the pressure on the man. I mean,
but in the letter, he was suggesting that he was going to go for a plan B or C.
And it's true, okay. But what I'm saying is, why right now what we're talking about is basically the pressure is not upon her, right, but upon him
to do something.
Okay, to do something to influence her.
I agree with you there, but most of the time, and I've
Yeah, in
heard
this case,
brothers
he's actually
talk
he's actually, blaming her for his
for
strange
issues that are in
tendencies.
it. As we said, it takes two. You initiate, and most of the time the people will follow. So
He's trying to make it take 3.
he's taking 4. I don't know what he's taking, but the focus needs to be on the end result. Is they want to keep their family together. I'm sure he loves his wife. He's feeling frustrated.
Yeah, he mentions.
Maybe it's an age thing. They're at different levels in their lives. But again, come on, everybody has a brain. Let's use it. You want something, give something to get something. It's
We
not.
got to give to get. Sheikh, is that something natural that comes up in marriages? And you think, because you talked about average age, we were speculating, but you talk about the average age. So is that something that maybe people need to be aware of in terms of whether it's premarital counselling and advice, or just general workshops, or things that need to be put in the community about
I think
being
so.
aware of whether it's your hygiene, or as sisters, or looking.
We should have couple date nights. Couples in the community go to restaurants, talk
Sounds
to
like
each
good,
other,
sounds
something like that.
Something obviously needs to be done,
Yeah.
because this doesn't
But I
seem
think
uncommon.
People need to know these types of things, because what this person is speaking about here is not something unusual. Okay? It happens in all communities, Muslim communities, non-Muslim communities. Okay? That when couples start getting into age 40 and above, all right, when kids come on the scene and so forth, right, you find that many times the woman becomes more saddled with more responsibility. She might be working outside. She comes home. She has to cook, look after the kids, etc., etc.
And be presentable for
You
her
know what I
husband.
mean? So when she has to prioritize, looking presentable for her husband becomes low on the priority because of these other things. Right? These things happen. Okay. Some women, for example, they think they hit 40, they're no longer attractive, so they're just not interested in trying to be attractive, for example. Some women, after they've had their children, they might not look the same way physically as they did before the kids. They don't feel so good about themselves. They might not be interested in intimate relationships. If a woman doesn't feel good about herself, she's not interested in intimate relationships, just like a man. Okay? And these are things that can be fixed. These are things that can be fixed just simply by being aware of them, by being able to talk about it, right? And by being able to negotiate, to contract.
You say they can be fixed, but do you think, for example, that some women are resentful about the idea of that? Like, I look after this man's children, I keep this house tip-top condition, and I do this, and on top of that, he wants me to be attractive for him. Who the hell does he think he is? Like, is that possible?
No, really, it does happen. Let's not lie. There are sections in our community that, of women who feel that. But I think most women want to be attractive, not just physically, spiritually, emotionally, all these things. And when you have invested so much time in your relationship or your children or whatever, sometimes all you need is a little cue, a little nudge. But not a nudge that comes with, well, if you don't do this, this is going to happen. Or I don't appreciate all this that you've done because you haven't done this. I mean, we have cases where, there'll be a sister who's gotten more involved in her deen and her dress style starts changing. So she might not be coordinating her clothes. As long as she's covered, it's fine. The scarf doesn't have to match the shoes, whatever. And the husband's now thinking, well, I'm loving the fact that you're more spiritual, but physically, what's going on? And as the Sheikh said, it really needs, I think with marriage, we really have to listen out to see what the needs of the other person is. Not always listen to the voice from inside, I want this, I'm expecting this, but be receptive to what's going on around you. And I'm sorry, sisters, people are not going to like me for saying this, but there is competition out there. I'm just going to say it how it is. There are sisters, if you're not going to do it, somebody else is.
I said, you're the bad guy
Well,
now.
when you speak the truth, you have to show all sides, I think. sisters aren't going to like that. I'll always support my sisters and the brothers, but let's speak the truth. You know, if you're not going to look good, he's driving in the car and that billboard is going to get his attention. Or Mary Jo at work, who's decided to put some eyeliner on, people being made out of flesh, it's going to drive his attention. It is your responsibility, if you're a smart woman, and most of our sisters are, to make sure you've covered everything for yourself, not because of him, for yourself. That's a vested interest. So if he wants you to wear eyeliner, he can suggest it and he can buy it for you. Leave it in the bathroom, your gift in a ribbon. I would love that, thank you very much. But don't shove it in my face, tell me this is what I need. No, with egos, it's not going to happen.
So what say you, Sheikh? What's the best way that this brother, come directly back to this scenario, how can he best initiate the time?
I think it's just hit it right on the head. You know what I mean?
Thank you very much.
In terms of the man taking the initiative.
Okay.
You know, and basically, that's to round it up, that's what she's saying. You know, you don't have much intimate time. Okay, you, sir, make intimate time for your wife.
Help your wife to create the space.
You know what I'm saying? You don't, you have a problem with how she appears. You know, she doesn't put on makeup and so on. You take her to a makeover, you know, once a month, for example. That they get accustomed to seeing herself beautiful or beautified.
And it's little things.
And it becomes habitual. You know what I mean? So I think she's right. I mean, this is a direct and at the same time non-confrontational way.
So
right,
with
of
kindness,
getting
with kindness.
a type of behavior modification that you would need.
Because again, men want, like we said, females like their spouses to be, you know, Prince Charming. Men also want their females to be, you know, attractive and alluring. It's good for everybody. I think there's no shame in saying that you both have to work at it. And it's a lifetime job. Things happen. But it's the way you do it. And, you know, if you want something done, make it happen. Make it easy for the person. Don't make it a burden. See, for sisters, they'll see it as another job to do. Oh, I'm not perfect.
That's what I'm saying. There's a list of all these things, and then on top of it.
But it's the way you do it. If you, there's a company called Voucher. You don't have to start with makeup. Maybe she can go to the salon and have her hair washed. It's nice, little treats like that. Maybe buy her some nail varnish. You know, maybe little things. It's a gift. I think you'd look really good in that. It's a way, I think. And
it has to be with sensitivity, because there's a risk that the wife could take offense or go into a shell or something.
Everything has to be done with sensitivity. As I said, you know, already you might think, well, why have you bought me this? Are you doing something? You know, what's going on? Our minds wander, Shaitan whispers in our ear. But we all know what our duty is in a marriage. Sometimes we need a little bit of a reminder, and sometimes we need to have the environment where these things can happen. If you've got kids, well, you know, you can't time when you're going to have time with your husband, or, you know, etc. But work on it together. I'm going to put the onus on the males, actually. Let's see what happens.
The onus on the males.
Yes, let them lead. They're the leaders of the house. Lead.
Excellent.
Everyone likes gifts.
We're approaching the end. Sheikh, any final word from yourself? It's been a riveting
Men take
first.
the initiative.
Men take the
Men
initiative.
take the
And
initiative.
sister
Yes.
said, like, what?
Look, I'm just kidding in a sense. If you have a problem with your spouse, okay, you take the initiative. If a woman has a problem with her spouse, she takes the initiative. If a man has a problem with his spouse, he takes the initiative. And I think it is logical, because that person who has that problem is the one who has the perception. Okay? They might both perceive, but the one who wants to take more action, the one who wants to leave, for example, right? The one who's
affected by it.
Yeah, the one who will write the letter to you, for example. You know what I'm saying? That person is the person who has the right to take the initiative. You know, and you know, so it's an equal opportunity type of an attitude, really.
Equal opportunity.
Yes.
I like that. That's a nice note to close on. It's been a riveting first episode, and it's been a pleasure staying with you for the duration of the It Takes Two, and hope to see you next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu.